Hey guys, Brown Eye Zero here. You might be wondering why I uploaded this video. Well, today this is something different. I never wanted to do an exposed video throughout my channel. I never really wanted to do that because that's not my thing. I always like to keep drama away from my YouTube channel. This time, I'm not letting that slide. Blake, you really betrayed me so badly. Before we begin, I have a couple of things to say first. Do not blame, abuse, or attempt to harass me, my friends, or any of the victims that Blake targeted. I had no idea what was happening, and I'll delete you and hide you from my channel if I see a comment saying that it was my fault. It's all Blake's fault for starting this war. I'm not letting it slide, because doing so will put you at risk of getting exposed and investigated. Secondly, spread this to as many people as you can. Blake cannot run away from his actions. He's going to pay for letting this happen to me, my reputation, my family, and my channel. Third, if you have new information about Blake's actions, I am open for conversations with you. So please, don't be afraid to ask for help. And lastly, 4, I'll do everything I can to explain as arrogantly and as accurately as possible. I will also be reading the documents, so you don't have to read it for yourself. I might also be saying it in my own words, so... Anyway, without further ado, I gotta go get some tea. Be right back. What? Okay. Alright. So, as many of my fans already know, I exposed Blake for fetish behavior on my channel by posting it in the community post. After some snow shoveling and a shower, my motivation skyrocketed from 10 to 80% on the first day. Within the first 3 to 4 days, I've been working around the clock to make this entire document of 2026, showing how much I care about this situation. Around that time, I've been gathering info from Blake via screenshot. Blake via screen. God, I can't even speak English. I've been gathering information from Blake via screenshots, and was lucky enough to still have his old Discord account on my friends list. I was lucky to have it when I did, so I can look through all the chat logs. So, what you're looking at right here is Blake's original first account, right here. And then you have Blake's alt account, which we'll get to later, trust me. And then there was this other account called Raigmore. However, the original first account got locked away by a feature on Windows that I don't want to talk about, because somebody would be curious about it and decide to use it anyway without any knowledge. Hence why he made a second account called Raigmore. Now we get to ask, who is Blake? So, Blake Raigmore was a friend of mine who voiced a tiny handful of characters in my series, including himself. He's 21 years old, meaning he's a young adult. He has ADHD and autism, just like me. I'm not kidding, by the way. I'm 20 years old as I'm speaking. But back then, I was 18. That was when we first met on YouTube. He was 19 years old back then, as also said in his YouTube channel back then. But unfortunately, I don't have any previous versions of his YouTube channel screenshotted because he constantly changes stuff. And I didn't even thought about taking a screenshot until it was too late. Sorry about that. He first watched my channel in late 2023. It was around the time when the Rage Mutants were attacking Prometheus' house. Before we even met, he did several voice sessions for his characters, while also beefing with the Rage Mutants I encountered, which exploded in views. Anyway, weeks before 2023 Christmas, I thought to myself, maybe one day he could be part of my series, so I So I asked if he wanted to be part of my series and said yeah. Plus he has Discord. So we met up for the first time, gave him audition lines, and succeeded. And then I gave him his first main set of voice lines, which somehow took a long time because of some school. Oh, you thought I said it? Come on out, man. Priorities, man. So as a welcome gift, I made him his own model of himself. All that while recovering from COVID-19 for 3 days. Now, Blake and I would play New vs. Zombies Relish, Muffin Combat, and a few other games from 2024 to late 2025. But a lot of them were awesome. Except for the times New vs. Zombies Relish Reborn would not allow me in the lobby due to me violating their dress code, which is to wear any New vs. Zombies related clothes or look like a noob or zombie from New vs. Zombies franchise. Which is so confusing. And as a lot of you know, Blake from the green card video I made around March. Blake and I would have normal conversations with each other about his characters, skins, versions of themselves in different universes, and many more. But he also told me he is a living Neko Nuke, meaning if he explodes, he could wipe out an entire city or worse, blow up an entire planet to pieces. Which is pretty terrifying, but also unrealistic. Unless you're a huge asteroid like Ceres. I don't need to show you the chat logs for that either. 85% of the conversation throughout 2024 all the way to the very end of 2025 were just normal conversations. Nothing suspicious. However, I remade Blake's characters on Roblox because I felt that some of them can be part of my series as well. After remaking most of the models, because I could not finish Selena, which is a goat human, because I got lazy. But it's because it would not only allow me to have them in my series, but also make way for what was about to come later on in this video. The pictures in chronological order left to right are as follows. Right here, this is Teresa and Everton. This picture is Excuse More. This is Richard, the same guy from my Halloween special. Drake! Now this is pretty interesting though. Drake was supposed to have voice acting, but for some reason it never happened. Anyway, Jessica Bombette and Blake Raigmore. Now comes to small problems. Blake had rivals. He often crashed out while playing games, especially the fact that he crashes out whenever he gets killed by another player, or when he plays New Zombies and he rages in the chat, rage baits. He does that a lot. I mean, to the point where people are getting aggravated by Blake. They tend to threaten him and attempt to ban him from the server, which is pretty ironic. Hence the name Raigmore, Bomberton. Yeah, I don't have to talk about that so much. But I want to talk about someone in particular. You guys remember Artizer? The same, I can't even speak. The same teenager who got exposed? Well, he and Blake had beef with each other at one point, which we'll get to later. Although I will admit, Artizer is guilty for the same stuff Blake did. But no, I'm not defending this guy. Yes, I interviewed him. So anyway, Blake often shows off Rebecca and himself in most of the screenshots Blake posted. Although, sometimes he makes grim situations where characters get killed. Anyway, so he also had a couple of friends, especially Average. Yes, I'm mentioning you for a reason. Average was a 17-year-old at that time. Now, Blake enjoys drawing a lot. In many of his drawings, he often draws himself as different characters, or characters he is a fan of, like Shucks from Friday Night Funky, or what was it called? What was the name of that Incredibox? Oh, Sprunky? Yeah, Sprunky. Yeah, you get what I mean. Yeah, he even drew me in different versions of different games and universes. For example, he drew me as a Castle Crasher character. Which is pretty amazing, by the way. As you can see, here are drawings of his recent artwork that he did, including my Castle Crasher outfit. And then there's this photo, which it may seem like it's a normal photo, right? This will be important later. Now, to be fair, his artwork didn't start off like this. When we first met, his artwork sucked. The characters looked strange. They had I don't even know how to describe them. They look cringe. The females look weird. Especially their chest area, where the chest looks like they extended forward. They, along with the recent ones, seem pretty harmless, right? But that's nothing compared to the photos he posted on DeviantArt. And trust me, this is only the tip of the iceberg. Back in 2024, he was not hiding all of the shit he sent to me on Discord, but also indirectly manipulate my brain into thinking he's a nice guy throughout Discord. And so it begins. This rabbit hole of Blake Raigmore's art. The content he made back in 2024 was originally created in Gacha Life, especially his main characters. But I had the idea to remake them onto Roblox, except for two, which was Shalina, because I got bored from it, and another character which had a very controversial appearance, as she was made by another didnt who I cannot show you. However, the server got deleted somehow. In fact, this would have been important evidence for me to understand what the heck's going on in his server, why these people existed, and how they behave towards others. I believe that server would become ground zero for Blake's fetish content. Fetish means an intense, often sexual attraction or devotion to non-living objects or non-sexual parts of the body, like feet, hair, legs, and torso, which arouses sexual interest or sexual excitement. And trust me, there's several different kinds of examples of fetish behavior taking place around Blake's conversation. Now, let me give you some clarification, just so I can demonstrate how deranged Blake went with his characters. So, you guys remember Vampire Permisa? If you watched Permisa's backstory, you should already know how devastating it was for her to be going through hell all around. Worked out all night. And also use her legs as a weapon, which you've seen in Permisa vs. the Rake Mutants. Just goes to show how much of a chastity belt she really is. Although I will admit though that Permisa is also romantic with me. I didn't think she would have a romantic relationship with me in front of my face. However, Blake treats Rebecca differently. Now, I am great at making and redoing models. I put detail onto all of them. In order for me to make sure it's appropriate, however, what I do is something I like to call self-judgment. Meaning I ask myself in my head every time, is this really okay for me to post online? When I made Rebecca and Jessica on Roblox. And yes, I did include her quote-unquote balloons on both of their chests, which I'm going to refer to them as balloons for now on. Here's both Jessica and Rebecca in both Roblox and Gacha Life. Now, I want you to pay attention to the balloons of both characters. I know people are going to think that I'm crazy or a creep, but that's not the case for me. I've always avoided NSFW content on my channel. Besides, everyone has different body shapes, but also, their balloons are still part of a woman's anatomy. So, I'm okay with the models, even if they do have balloons on them, unless it involves sending it to people that will use them for sexual desires or predatory behavior. That would be a regretful decision for me later on down the line, especially what Blake would do with Rebecca in both Gacha Life and on Roblox Studio. Blake used to treat her like normal in the beginning. However, unlike Promisa's legs that she used as weapons, aesthetics, and a reminder of her brutal past, Rebecca's legs had one purpose: to seduce into looking attractive. Blake expanded her legs just like that other controversial character, which I'm not gonna mention, in that inactive server whom I can't show because, again, I don't have the pictures of her. Blake would also put a blush on her face and made her behave like she has a desire over Blake. She even made her a scared coward too, but she doesn't seem afraid of any fetish behavior. But there is one feature that would make this character an alarming red flag for present-day me to see this as a sign of fetish behavior. Blake enlarged her balloons to watermelon size, a size way too big and inappropriate to show on this document. And also, a size I did not ask for. How is this okay for you to post? Thankfully, it's not the size of her own body, and this is where my mistakes begin. Mistake number 1. I was not paying attention to the details for a couple reasons. Me and Blake were young adults at that time. Yet, it didn't click into me to realize that his softcore fetish was going to be sent to other people who are under 18 or around the same age gap as me. Secondly, my mind processing and realization was ridiculously slow at that time. I don't know what the logic behind my mind being so slow at the process really meant, but it goes to show how easy it was for him to indirectly manipulate my thoughts on Blake into being friends with him, and while also earning the trust of both him and I, all while ignoring the fetish content and focus more on what's going on in the scene. And to add insult to all of that, I did very little research on exposed Roblox predators throughout that time. However, it wasn't until Blake's first exposure that I really began to do a lot of research. Hence why I was unaware of the fetish art. But hang on there. That is just only one example of his fetish art. He's got a long history posting fetish art on Discord via direct message. And this is the part where I tell you, viewer discretion is advised. The earliest parts of Blake's addiction dates back to February of 2024. He also doesn't respect other people when it comes to mentioning them several times in his posts. But I couldn't get screenshots of it because he deleted his post right before I was thinking about taking a screenshot, which I didn't do at the time. But it's not just me that gets affected by those mentions. He does it to everyone who voice acted his characters, my characters, and even their own characters. That includes friends. It gets pretty irritating after a while, getting notified so many times by Blake. But back to the fetish art. But it was also during a time when Blake introduced me to Excuse-More and Alexandra. And I forgot that Rebecca was not the only one who got affected by Blake's addiction. This is Alexandra, a character Blake made based on one of his friends who she had a similar name as the character he sent me. She had a red aura surrounding her, a red flower-looking hat, brown-colored hair, red lips, burning red eyes, and of course fangs. While these features are pretty okay and pretty harmless, there is one alarming feature she had, especially when I double-checked both and realized another thing. Just like Rebecca, Alexandra's balloons were enlarged too, but there's a difference. It was enlarged to an extent. The only difference was that instead of each balloon being separate, like Rebecca's, they were clustered into each other, making it into the shape of a blobfish without the fins. And the worst part was the fact that this was the same balloons that the other character from that other inactive server had from earlier. Like a big idiot, I asked Blake, "Isn't that Rebecca?" When the evidence is clearly there, that was not Rebecca. However, in my head, I realized her balloons were too big to be accepted. So when I remade the model, her balloons were more covered and slightly smaller than Blake's Alexandra, but it's still bigger than Rebecca's. This was the reason why her demonic form only appeared as an Easter egg in the Devil Wasp episode. I said demonic form because she actually had several forms, including 2 of them in my series. The Alexandra you see here in the document is her demonic form. The one you see in the Halloween special, the 6th one, is actually her phantom form. However, her phantom form only appeared once in my entire series and never appeared again. Blake did the same thing again to her phantom form. Just like her demonic form, she had the large balloons with a comparable size as Rebecca's. There were so many forms that Alexandra had. I can't include all of them since there's so many, but I did find one form that she had that is pretty controversial. And no, this is not in the document, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Look at this wolf human with those thick legs and, yes, the enlarged balloons. That is also Alexandra. My only issue is that these inappropriate balloon sizes that Blake made in Gosh Life compared to Roblox were too sexual for anyone to look at. Even if the balloons were to scapegoat me into thinking I'm an R63 creator, which is false, it's still Blake's character, meaning Blake would be responsible for making them appear like that. There are a few characters, however, I'm going to keep, other than Blake himself, of course. Here's the list of the characters that will make a comeback but have new rights that Blake once had and will never get back. And here are the following characters that will die on camera based on what Jessica will tell me after my beef with the Overseer Worm. Yes, this might seem offensive, but this is my way of punishing Blake for his crimes. Here's the thing. You guys notice that Jessica has been perfectly normal this whole time? Meanwhile, Bianca and Teresa stayed perfectly normal throughout the other chat logs, except for the one time he turned them into gooners as well. But if you thought that was bad, we're only getting started. The first time he sent me fetish art was around January. It was around the time when we were talking about Drake and Shalina's backstory, and said he should never tell or mention his backstory to them or else they will kill me. And here's what I responded. Oh gosh, I better not talk about it. Blake said, better not. Seriously. Blake roleplaying Jessica.
Okay, what are you punks doing?
Then he sent me this gift at the same time. I honestly feel uncomfortable with this gift because not only was it completely unnecessary, or the fact that we were having a conversation about Drake and Shalina, but the fact that Blake was talking about Drake and Shalina with his genitals exposed, even though it's censored at the exact spot, is really disturbing. And it ruins the conversation about Drake and Shalina. That will not hide your sins at all. So I decided to play along and remember what you did. And also decided to go Chris Hansen on this one. And said, tell her to knock on the door next time. That way he doesn't show me this disgusting gif again. Once again, I made another mistake. Failing to realize I roleplayed with him without knowing he had his parts exposed, yet disregarded it with advice to knock first. Is really bad for so many reasons that cannot be explained, and is something that you should already know. I didn't think Blake was gonna do something like this. I would have bolted out of the door and shouted at him, put your clothes back on. Instead, I figured that Blake uploaded an adult joke on me and disregarded. It didn't help that this whole thing would be overshadowed once he got exposed. The situation really didn't escalate until October 9th of 2024. Blake and I did some fun role-playing, no related topics. We were battling against a giant new bomber holding this giant bomb. It was inspired by the elite destructible bombers from New vs. Zombies Relish Reborn, based on this clip. Blake would do a lot of role-playing by himself. A lot. Plus I had to do my Halloween special, since I didn't have time to just loiter around. Until I finished my Halloween episode. And then 4 days later, Average would come in and tell me that Blake has a thing for porn. Porn will not be tolerated in my series. Especially when it comes to people like Blake. I thought he was only doing it towards me only, which was another mistake. And knowing he posted the same thing to Average, one of his friends, is very disturbing. And that's not even the worst part. He uploaded this image on YouTube, his community post, so that anyone that stumbles upon it can see it. That's when it hit me. I realized that Blake had been posting on not just on Average, but to me too. I had to go chat with Blake after it all clicked into me. A mistake that would scar me for the rest of 2025. The fact that he was sharing his degenerate work towards Average. That both Average and I needed to talk to Blake to control himself, otherwise he's done for. So I went ahead and talked to him about his behavior. The next page is how the conversation went out. So I'm going to provide an entire set of photos and screenshots of the conversation we had. Now, I'm going to let you guys read it on your own, just so you know how pathetic this guy was. So here's how it went. I'm sorry that I kept stuttering. I'm so scared shitless. I forgot to mention the Cool Kids server. I honestly don't know what Blake was doing in that server. Now, I want to go over this part right here. Blake messaged me. I was already told. I just want this night to end. Blake, will you promise not to do any of that again?
I am taking that promise like literally.
What I'm going to do is fixing myself right now. Just don't tell anyone all of this, please. Which will invalidate everything he said once he started making more fetish content in DeviantArt. And then he said, I've been through years of this corruption. By saying that, he's telling me that he has been doing this years before we first met. After I showed some of the proof...
I said proof. Proof. You thought that I said proof? Come on, man. Priorities, man.
And a similar incident that happened to Notive, in a nutshell. I was trying to stop his fetish behavior because, first of all, Blake and I have been friends for 11 months at that time. Second, we had such funny moments of Blake rage baiting and had such talent. Third, even after the conversation, everything returned to normal temporarily. However, I warned him to make sure that if he ever tries this degenerate porn addiction on us again, he would get exposed. And I made a promise to him to stop with his fetish behavior. I made it very clear to him. I know for a fact that a lot of you guys are going to think that all this is fake. If you think this is all fake... Yep, you knew. You knew that was coming. Does this look familiar? Yeah. For those that live under a rock that don't know who Notive was a Roblox animator famous for his Roblox moderation in a nutshell 1 and 2. He got exposed for grooming a 16-year-old in September of 2023, but he also uploaded cropped versions of furry on Roblox and targeted his friends for his lustful desire. But back to the story. I should have blocked him when I did, but I fell for his emotional breakdown, like something out of Transformers 1. I felt sorry for him at first, but I wish I wasn't so sorry for him. In fact, I wish I never had helped him get his account back. But then again, I might have also saved hundreds of users, including my friends. 2025 had to be the worst year for Roblox, especially with all the chaos that has been going on throughout the month. But nothing could have made this year worse than what happened at the very end of 2025. I thought Blake had changed and promised he would not do this fetish behavior anymore. Heck, he even said to Ortizer that he had changed. He'd stopped being a fetish. Now, on February 2025, Blake was getting a message from someone who got scammed by a scammer, as it claimed that it filed a support ticket of fraud and illegal purchases, which is not true. At first, I thought it was legitimate, so Blake and I tried figuring out how to get this false ticket out. And the scam said you would have 72 hours to undo the ticket before it gets banned. Quick context though. Discord would never say something like this. So Blake and I had to struggle to get his account back because we had no idea what this was. As it led to Blake making an alt account when he friend requested me on an alt so that he can get it back. I gave Blake some advice which didn't help, and it only made the issue worse. Until I saw a video made by No Text to Speech. Shout out to him for talking about the exact same scam. I watched the whole thing and it was at this point I realized I scammed one of my friends into this booby trap of a scam. It's going to scam everyone if I just let it continue on like this. I told everyone, all my friends, everyone in every server I was in, that there's a scam going around scamming hundreds of people. Thanks to this video. All while that's going on, I sent a support ticket to Discord to help recover his account. And surprisingly, within less than 2 or 3 days, they recovered his account. Blake had to reset his password after getting it back. But that's not all. Look at this. This is very important. Discord literally gave me a vigilante safety kit to avoid falling for scams like the ones that affected Blake. That means I actually helped someone who was scammed by a scammer, and Discord thanked me for it. It was very helpful, but at what cost after what was gonna happen on December? The duality between me being a hero for saving my friends from the scam that was plaguing Discord and being a villain trying to help Blake get his account back from the scam. But here's the thing. What if I did not save Blake Raigmore and told everyone there's a scam going around, so on and so forth? How are people gonna believe me when I say it? I don't know. The human mind can be very complex. If I had not saved Blake but told everyone about what was happening, that would have done more damage than I had saved him. Cause there could be friends over there that don't know about this scam. And many people, including a lot of my friends, would be stupid enough to fall for those traps and get scammed. But in my opinion, it's still better than the breach that happened in Discord back in October, which I'm sure a lot of you Discord users already know this, so I'm not gonna go into that. But hold your horses. That did not mean his first exposure would be left forgotten. Now, this part isn't mentioned in the document because there were things I'd forgotten about. Apparently, the Noob vs. Zombies Relish community was enraged about Blake. At some point in March, I decided to talk to Artizer in his server. To be honest, some of my fans were in the server. But nonetheless, the only reason why I joined his server in the first place was because of what happened in March. Ever since he got exposed the first time, the Noob vs. Zombies community slowly learned and found out about Blake's fetish content. At some point around March of 2025, someone named Spade followed and stalked Blake and wishing him dead IRL. Now, at first, I thought it was another player, but pleading in battle for one more chance isn't gonna work. And he said it's not enough. And he kept talking about the past. And what else? He wants me gone permanently, or dead IRL. Telling me to slit myself. I'm done with this guy. I even asked for another chance to change, but he is heartless, to not care. Now he's gonna just spread the word to everyone. I just want to fix this nightmare, which I'm following progress on, but then just, bruh! And every game I go, he's just gonna hitman me down till I die. You can't let anyone change actions from the past, can you? I know I got caught before and I regret it, but still, flaming me after I try to change? This is just heartless hack. And I didn't have a laptop or PC before. Like, has he said anything to you at the time? Anything negative? Which, apparently, no. He didn't say anything negative about me. He never met me before. Yeah, he never complained about me when I also commented on his video. Sorry if I sound scared, but I'm just scared shitless. only for Blake to reply again. And when he replied, Artizer replied to him. Oh my gosh! I turned tides to stop them preds and groomers because it's a whole nightmare and it pisses me off. Again, invalidates his claim after what will happen later on. I knew this was getting out of hand, so... Blake, this is pretty horrible. That thing he's doing this to you, consider that heresy, which turns out to be false after what I found out about Blake's art, since it's nothing but the truth. Then I asked him an important question. A really important one. Had you done something like this before? I hope not. He said no. I'm just scared to ask. Then I might want to talk to him today or tomorrow. Please do. Since he couldn't stand having to deal with Artizer every single time. Then I remember what Blake sent me the last time he got exposed. So I said, you know what I realized? Do you remember that disturbing NSFW photo of you and Rebecca last year? Yeah, I think you had some sort of porn addiction without me realizing. Which is valid. Then he said, yeah, and I'm trying to fix that. Yet I'm going to try to be normal this year. And my birthday, to begin, I can change the issue. Why not giving me a chance to try? Now please note, this is not going to happen right away. But rather, I want to make sure he too doesn't go toxic on me. Alright. For the third time, Blake's response will invalidate everything that he said about changing. Like I said earlier, I don't have the chat logs for when Artizer and I were talking about Blake, but I want to mention something. Artizer has not even put Blake's art, but he did say that Blake made bloating content. Oh my gosh. We'll get to that later. It's not over yet. One day, when he got the ability to use Roblox Studio, Blake asked for some of the models I remade on Roblox earlier. So I decided to send him the models so that he can become a Roblox character designer. So I taught him the basics on how to use Roblox Studio so that he can create his own versions of Blake. And trust me, I did not do anything suspicious. It was all concrete evidence. It was all just simple stuff. He always loved making colossals. Pretty cool though. However, he also used Roblox Studio for another purpose with my guard down. We'll get to that later. Now you probably noticed something. Notice how his Discord PFP profile picture hasn't changed the whole time I was talking about this? When he was active throughout 2024 to 2025, he oftentimes changed his profile picture frequently. That is because I took the screenshots after the second exposure. I had to go all the way back and go through every single chat log. Because what happened was that 20 days before my birthday came, I had been waiting for voice lines for weeks, until then I found out that Blake broke his phone. What followed was my disappointment and rant over Blake for his anger and outbursts. Yeah, I could have finished my birthday before May 24th. Other than the fact that the clothing quality kept shifting. Yeah, I don't know. I can't explain much because it makes no sense how Roblox Studio even functions. Why is my graphics constantly changing itself with my guard down? It makes no sense. But then, out of nowhere, on August 22nd, he came back. Knowing how I missed him shows how much of a stranglehold he got on my emotions. After Blake made a new account on Discord, which is now Raigmore, he finally got a new phone. We would finally be reunited temporarily again. And once again, like everything else, his drawings was basically improved. His models of Colosso and all of his other big Colosso guys did some voice lines and a few others. However, things only escalated. Blake would be banned from almost every new vs. Zombie server he was in, or wanted to be in, because of the first incident. Which includes the new vs. Zombies Relish original and the reborn version. As far as banning him is concerned, The players treated him like a punching bag. Oftentimes they bully and beaten up Blake for both the exposure and his raging and insults, hence why they're so toxic to Blake. Not only that, most of them remind Blake of the incident, the first incident that occurred. In response, I warned him to control his emotions, but he doesn't care because it was a permaban. I gave him advice to get into contact with whoever owns this game, but he refused because he knows the community is gonna go viral on him. He ain't doing it. Then I snapped and screamed, "This community would not have been toxic to you if you hadn't been so utterly toxic to everyone." And I remembered the first incident very clearly. If you hadn't been addicted to your NSFW BS, none of this would have happened. There's one thing intelligent beings like you have in common. They never forget. This is the reason why I remember what happened the first time he got exposed. So I yelled at him and reminded him about what he has done. So if an elephant doesn't forget, then they sure won't forgive. Then he responded, which was my issue in the first place, and I predicted it. He got a warning too for saying the word sprint. Does real Roblox moderation even exist? I can't let this cycle continue any longer. It's time to stop playing Noob vs. Zombies, Blake. I'm sorry, but it's reaching a breaking point. I feel very sorry that this happened to you, bro. And to be honest, I know he's trying to get his mind off. He just needs to take a break for once. And just stop using Roblox for now and take a break. Next, we got the 7th Halloween episode. It was unfortunately done very late because a ton of things have been happening. From getting distracted so often by other things such as playing Space Flight Simulator, watching YouTube so often, to listening to music, or doing homework, or doom scrolling, all the way to doing some college work. So much has been happening throughout September and October. By the time I finished, I felt exhausted, and that Halloween special became a success, with Jerry having a new voice actor and Eris, the Red Leech Moth, appearing for the first time. No doubt, a chef's kiss. Throughout November, I was losing motivation when it followed the same format as others had. I was so... you know what? I scrapped the whole Thanksgiving episode and moved to the Shower Dog episode after my Thanksgiving meal. By December, I was animating the Shower Dog lore, as well as my Christmas episode, which involves my whole family opening presents. But that all changed on the 30th. What Blake would do behind my back would not only scar me, but turn that tiny little scar into a knife wound to the face. It was so damning that after confronting him, I alerted all of my fans about this madness that Blake got me involved in. Now, I did mention that he had a DeviantArt account, but I don't have the screenshots for it because I was pretty dumbfounded at the time. But here's the thing. I don't have a DeviantArt account, so I didn't really care much about it. And now, this is the part that is, to this day, the most blood-boiling, heart-shattering, trust-breaking things I had ever seen from this adult. If you're uncomfortable with this, skip to this timestamp. It was around December 30th, 8:26 p.m. exactly. One of my best friends, who I'm gonna call him Red, told me, "Hey Brown, I'm sorry if all this is going to make you mad, but I have to tell you the truth about Blake." So my IRL friend said that Blake has a DeviantArt, which I already know, and in his favorites, it had fetish art of characters that are underage. Just want to bring your attention. Then I said, I remember him talking about it last year. Are you telling me he is recently favoriting fetish art? Now, for privacy's sake, I'm gonna call my best friend Red, Red's IRL friend Indigo, and Indigo's girlfriend White. I looked at Blake's gallery from the link he sent me. The first thing I see was Blake drawing something on his phone. I didn't know what it was until I looked closely and realized he was drawing a fat person? You know that game called Dig Dug, where you kill an enemy using a harpoon and then you pump them with helium to death before they explode? Or how about the Crusher Mutant from Mutant Testing Reborn? That's exactly what he was drawing. That might seem like it's not as bad as it looks, but it represents Blake's continuation of his addiction to fetish art. However, you can clearly see from the date that it was uploaded November 27th? No way did he just send porn on DeviantArt. I thought we had a discussion about this, Blake. I don't remember him lying to me. Also, you guys remember that drawing of Blake from the normal artwork section? From the document? He also posted it there, along with most of his quote-unquote bloating fetish drawings. When I scrolled down to look for what else he drew, the same character that Blake enlarged her balloons to look sexual, as she's actively pumping helium into Blake's body. When I looked at the photo, I was like, in slightly disbelieved. I said to myself, no way did he do that. So, to see what Blake also made throughout November, I decided to click on the image and scroll down again. And as I looked at the More by Blakemore 125 gallery, which was Blakemore's main Deviant account. Oh my god. I honestly couldn't believe what I was looking at. I can see that his fetish behavior had been getting worse ever since we promised not to do it again. I spotted 5 photos of bloated characters, including himself. Artizer was right from the start! His new DeviantArt fetish revolves around turning his characters, especially minors, into literal balloons, blimps, obese versions of themselves, or even living balls with arms and legs sticking out. Especially the times when you feed them with helium inside the mouth or the back door, with the same exact expression of desire, joy of inflating others, and doing NSFW fantasies, all while I was using Discord, Roblox, Twitter, and Canvas for school. Quick side note, my friend told me that Blake had pornography of Raven from Teen Titans Go. I have no idea if he had victimized more minors by blowing their entire bodies for explicit consent. Although he did it to himself using Rebecca, pumping helium into your body is extremely unhealthy for you. For reference, helium is the lightest element in the world. It's so light that not even our planet Earth can hold onto it for long. It looks to me that Blake and Rebecca seem to appear more frequently than the others from almost every drawing. But as far as the appearances go, the content was disturbing. Fast forward to January 1st. The allegations were so bad that I had to work around the clock to make this document. That was when I started taking screenshots of everything that happened, starting from the beginning of our conversation all the way till his second exposure. With a huge junkyard of evidence to organize, format, and put them all into a document, to prove how deceptive Blake has been ever since Alexandra. Then, I thought of a better idea. I did a Google search to find what else he was hiding from me. What I found was more of the same fat, limp, ball-shaped bodies of several different characters, but this time, they were either rolling downhill like a boulder, or being rolled around by someone. Heck, I even found someone who made Blake's legs fatter than anyone else on the site, as an OG character. However, the 2 photos I saw, which were made in Roblox Studio, one being Rebecca and Blake pushing a blueberry-colored person, and then there was this one, My blood pressure reached a new high as I was looking at this photo. This screenshot is the most disturbing of the many, because not only did he use my models I made on Roblox a long while back, he used my Rebecca model for sexual purposes. Like I said before, I will not share any of my models with people that are addicted to fetish art. And from the looks of it, yes, I censored this for a reason. That almost looks like... I can't even describe it. And the worst part, April. What? How is he not banned? He promised me that he was not going to do any more of this fetish behavior. And this is what you give me? What started out as a harmless idea turned into something infinitely worse than handing him a friendly gift. I had been duped, deceived, and lied to by this man. Blake doesn't even realize that he deceives a channel that has spent 8 fucking years to build an entire channel. He was indirectly trying to push me down against me. And in the end, he would have been close to ending my channel completely, with my whole reputation being poisoned by his addictive fetish that he does not want to fix, as he flees from his problems, while his problems follow him, which explains everything as to why other Discord servers banned him in the first place. Now, on January 2nd, I did more research and found out he also had peers with similar fantasies that did the exact same thing, which this photo was uploaded on a furry website. And no, I'm not a furry. I'll never become one. I have no idea what else he was doing while my guard was down, but I'm going to need help. That was the last straw. I decided to take a screenshot of this entire gallery, along with the rest of his artwork that I found, at least for now, and send it to Red, as well as my other friends who know about Blake. So I contacted Blake again for the second time, and I was more infuriated than I ever was with the first exposure. Not because he continued his fetish behavior when I told him to stop with his fetish behavior, but also he lied to me. He lied! So I confronted him directly. I tried to ask him to explain what the heck this stuff is. He said that he hasn't changed. Dude, did you not get the memo? Your hide is gonna get beaten up to a crisp if you lied to all of us, especially my friends! He knows. That statement cannot be said any further. This liar that I see before my eyes did not just lie and deceive me from trying to help him cure his addiction, but he chose to run away from his sins. Yet his sins followed him to go to a different platform and upload his content there. This infuriated me to levels of blood boiling point. We're gonna skip ahead since it's gonna take forever for me to talk about all this stuff. So, anyway, I knew that he wasn't going to take his addiction problem very seriously, and he tried showing sympathy. Sympathy? Oh my gosh. Can't even speak? He tried showing sympathy to me again, so that he could run away like he did last time, and flee further from my range without my notice, and control my emotions the same way he did the first time. So, I decided to mention Blake on my YouTube community post, which I'm sure all of you fans already know this, so I'm not going to go into depth. But what I will talk about is his reaction. He said this: "Wait a minute, posts can reveal similar issues?" I said, "Nope, I posted this as a warning to you. You'll know what's coming if this happens a third time." Knowing that this post was insanely effective caused Blake to panic when he said that. Before he went silent, Blake had no clue who Kem Geyser was, since, of course, I said his name on the post. Blake then responded with the following: "Maybe this world needs to be nuked, including me." You are trying to end all of us so that we can have no life on Earth. And my chance to defeat my villains would be all for nothing. It's not the Earth. It's about you. One of my biggest and reasonable crash outs I had ever unleashed because of this sentence. Maybe this world needs to be nuked. The part you don't see is my anger towards the poor moderation Roblox had throughout the years. So that's that. After my insane crash out, he didn't say a single word after that huge sentence I just shouted at his face. And I would end my time with Blake with a final response, saying, I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm done talking. I'm so tired of dealing with creeps that do not listen to me after I've gotten a headache yesterday. After that, I let everyone else know on my YouTube channel that Blake has been exposed for fetish behavior. The next day on New Year's Eve, at around late at night, Red and his IRL friends Indigo and his girlfriend White created a group chat and discussed what happened during the Blake incident the next day. Instead of showing you the screenshot, I will provide the following dialogue transcript between me and White with the highlighted text being labeled as the parts that scare me so badly. Never before had I thought I would be called a grown man as a 20-year-old and be threatened in a way that would open a knife wound so badly that it was enough to threaten my whole life. And of course, my whole family. The mentioning of the Jesus.
Whoopsie. Sorry, I just pranked you.
Anyway, the mentioning of the FBI tip list, as well as calling the FBI on not just Blake, but for me if I don't block him and remove him, is extremely life-threatening. It also breaks my heart when she said, that's a huge middle finger for any victim of CP. And that's because if you had read several stories of victims getting abused, it's devastating. I've seen several drama videos talking about victims who got harassed from Roblox YouTubers without knowing what was going on behind the scenes. And it's always the victims that got harassed by their favorite YouTubers. And worst of all these cases brought down to the platform's moderation, which contributes to the escalation of predators on the platform. Like I've said 100 times already, Blake had partial control of my emotions when he wasn't exposed. He made me feel sympathy for him after the first incident, and then later on, it would only escalate his addiction further because of my failure to recognize the pornography. Blake would use his excuses against me to continue his endless lust for sexual desire while forcing helium down several people's throats. This incident would ruin my entire New Year's Eve forever. It just proves how, I have to say it again, fucked up this entire year was. So now I'm exposing him. And as I'm saying this now, these failures shall not be served as an opportunity to continue the fetish behavior. They should be used as a lesson and spread awareness as to what happens to those that post fetish content to others. And they will serve as a reminder of Blake's dark past and a warning to anyone that tries the same thing to me again. I am deeply sorry I couldn't stop Blake sooner. After the New Year's incident, I couldn't sleep after midnight. I was up till 1:43 a.m. For reference, I usually go to bed at like 8 o'clock, 9 or 10, but my body was exhausted. However, my mind kept racing like it needed to address the Blake allegations now. It really needed to be talked about because it was so severe to not just my mental health, but to my entire channel as a whole. But I did learn 2 lessons from that day. Never give second chances to anyone. And if you're going to talk to strangers, please stay vigilant and be careful. The next morning, on January 1st, 2026, 3 hours before I started working on the document, Blake posted a long farewell to everyone, and I took these screenshots as I was getting ready for snow shoveling, which I actually did, by the way. But this is not the end of the Blake files yet. There are many more details missing throughout the previous 2 years since we first met. I will be on high alert as the days go on. I want to see if there's any more evidence of Blake Raigmore's actions. Although, on January 9th, Blake shared my video on the trailer for the upcoming exposure, and Blake also replied to my comments saying that Blake had something that he probably didn't tell me. It's not just these comments. If you thought his fetish behavior was bad enough, look at this. But it's all 100% I'd rather take. I am stupid, bipolar, and can't control myself often, that I lack sense of any of my damn self. Bipolar disorder, also known as maniac depression, is a mental health condition that causes extreme mood swings. These include emotional highs, also known as mania, and lows, known as depression. This is the leading cause for his episodes of fetish content. So, bipolar disorder includes maniac episodes, which includes feeling overly happy for long periods of time, talking very fast with racing thoughts, becoming easily distracted, having overconfidence in abilities, and engaging in risky behaviors, which can explain all the raging, fetish content, role-playing, the enlarged balloons, and hiding all the fetish content from me. And then there's the depression episodes, which includes feeling sad or hopeless for long periods of time, significant changes in appetite, thinking about or attempting, feeling fatigue or lack of energy, and problems with memory and concentration. So, now that I thought about it, I realized why I was trying to help him. To end this whole video off, I must remind you a couple of things. Do not blame or harass any victims, including me, for any of this behavior mentioned in this document or video. Nobody who got affected by Blake deserves the hate that they should not have deserved. Like I said before, I have autism and ADHD, and I will delete your comment if I see any comments regarding the blame on me or any of the victims. Also, I will report you if you use the document or the evidence I had gained with Blake as false allegations against me or any of my friends over false allegations, and all of them are just out of context. 2. Spread this document around to everyone that you can trust. The link is in the description. And 3. If you have any more information about Blake, don't be afraid to talk to me and speak to me about it. I'm okay if you want to include your name or keep your name anonymous. But please tell me the truth. Tell me your side of Blake's story and I will listen to you. And lastly, subscribe to the channel. Anyway, that's all for now. Yeah, I had to get that out of my chest. It's just too much. Blake, you have betrayed all of us. And you betrayed me. Now there's one more thing you must do. Head back to the Carbuncle base. You are banished from the team. Farewell, Blake. This will be your bad bye forever.